Hello students, welcome once again to this video tutor program produced by the Department of School Education, Nagaland. Today in this class, I am here to help you with Science for Class 8, and together in this edition of video tutor, we will learn about force and pressure. That is in chapter 11 of your textbook. So if you have your textbook with you, you turn to chapter 11 and keep it ready, so that anytime you need to refer to the textbook, you will be having your textbook during the course of our lessons. You can refer to it. Now, going back to the previous class, that is in class 7, you learned about motion. We learned that we have that chapter called motion, and if you recall though, the things that a body, when a body, how a body needs, it moves, why a body is moving faster than the other, or how much distance a body covers in a unit time. So or when you roll a ball, in how many unit time it covers, how many distance. So you have learned all those in motion. Now today I'm going to make you explore more about from that by asking you this: what made the object move faster? Or what made the object change its direction? Or what was it that made that object stop? Let us think of a situation. Let us think of, example in our everyday experiences. Let's take, for example, a game. Let's take an example of a game. Especially boys, we like to play football. We are very fond of football. So at the start of a game, when the game starts, the ball is stationary. It's in the center of the pitch and it's stationary. Now, as you start, what do you do to make the ball start moving? You kick the ball, right? You kick the ball and then you run along with it, such that to the direction of your opponent's goal. And as you take the ball towards your opponent's goal, you will find your opponents blocking your path. We call them defense. So what do? You pass the ball along to one of your teammates. Now suppose your teammates have crossed the defense, and he needs to go. He wants to score. So as he receives the ball, now he has to make the ball run faster so that the opponent cannot catch him. So what does he do to make that ball again go faster? And then once he reached the goal, he tried to score. He tried to score a goal. So he kicked the ball again, right? He kicked the ball to score. But already the goalkeeper in your opponent's goal post, he is not going to be stationary. So the goalkeeper will dive or he will jump to say, block the ball. So in all this situation, in all this situation that we have used, we say that a force has been applied to the ball to make it move, to make it change direction, to make it go faster, or to stop it. So we say that we apply a force for that action to take place. So to seek more, to find more answers, or to rather to question more about this force, let us explore more about this force. Now, I have set some questions before this, like what does a player do to make the ball go faster? What do you say do to make the ball stop? So all these are all these things that makes an object starts moving or say moving faster, change direction, etc. It involves an action. So what are those actions? Let's say not only with the ball where we are kicking the ball. That is not the end. Suppose there is action such as picking up a fruit, okay, or you are say trying to lift your table, or you are say you shut the door, right? These are all actions. You try to pull your chair, or you throw a stone, and then you say, yes, sometimes we push our friends, right? So these are all actions. That result in force, or that results in a change in state, change in the motion of an object. So all these actions, like say pushing, pulling, throwing, kicking, or say lifting, picking, etc. Let's take a look and confine all those words, picking, lifting, etc. all those into two terms. Let's try to bring it together. Suppose you are picking up the chair. You pick up a chair or you pick up you pick a fruit. Isn't that similar to pulling? Right? You are trying to pull up the chair like this. So that is similar to pulling. Or you say, even when you lift an object, that is pulling, right? Or suppose you throw in a game of cricket. You throw a ball. So when you throw that ball, isn't that pushing? Right? Similar. Isn't it similar to pushing? Or when you kick that ball, the football, when you are playing that football, you kick the football. Isn't that pushing? Now, what you'll be thinking is, why is this term? Why are we concerned with pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling, right? Now, yes, I hope you have noticed that where I'm leading you into with this push and pull. Now, what I'm leading you into is we can come to a conclusion. That when an object starts to move, it is either because of a push or a pull. So we can say that we can say that we can come to define or describe force with that two term. We can describe force as a push or a pull of an object. So we can, we can define force like that. Now, when we are applying those actions, like pushing and pulling, when we are applying those actions, we are not alone. We're not doing that alone. Or a force to, to experience force. A single object cannot experience that alone. Right. For a table to move, it needs someone to push him, right? Or for the ball to start moving, you need to kick. So you are also an object, the ball is also an object. So there should be always two bodies interacting for force to start for force to come into play. Now let's take an example. Say let's think of a scenario. Say suppose you are walking in the town on the road, and you see a car that has broken down, and it's not the engine is not starting. So what do the people do? They will start to push the car, right? They will, the people will gather around the car, and then they will start to push, so that they will try to jumpstart the car maybe, or they will push the car into a garage, right? So in this situation, we find that we see that the car is stationary. It's not trying. It's stationary. It is. It doesn't want to move, right? And when the people try to push, they are applying a force which is going to change the state of motion of the car. So when there are more and more people, they start to move, push the car, and the car starts to move. Now, if you look at your textbook, when you look at your textbook and you go to figure 11.3, there will be 3 sets of pictures. In one picture, you'll find that two girls are trying to play a game, right? A game where they are pulling on each other and and then there is another picture where a farmer is trying to pull the buffalo or the cow, right? So when you look at that picture, what do you infer from it, or what do you conclude? In the 3 pictures, the first one is a man trying to push the car, and then there is 2 girls trying to push each other, and then there are two pictures where they're trying to pull each other, right? So in all this interaction, we find that there are always 2 objects interacting together. There are always two bodies that interact together to form for a force to come into play. In the case of the 2 girls holding hands and playing, you find that the objects that I'm describing here are the 2 girls, right? Or for the cow and the farmer, maybe as the cow tries to pull the farmer as it is refusing to move, the farmer is also trying to pull the cow So here we find that this interaction between the cow, this interaction between the objects that I'm going to say now they are objects because the two bodies has produced a force which has started to produce some force. Now, to understand this more clearly, let's think of another scenario. Suppose you are suppose you are trying to rearrange your room, or you are trying to lift a heavy box, and you find that you are not able to move the closet or push that box alone. So what do? You call your families or you call your friends to help you. What is happening is that when you call when you're alone and you're pushing that closet, or you're trying to push that box, the box is also trying to interact with you. The box is also trying to interact with you, and it's interacting with you. And since the heavy box is also applying some force on you as you push, there is a certain term which there is certain factors which are beyond the scope of this class, so we will not enter that. Now, when you call your friends and your families to push that box, what happened is that now the box will start to slide, it starts to move. That means you have added more force. You have added the action that you were adding into the box has been increased. More force have been added in the in pushing that box. Something like it. This scenario is something like a game of tug of war. In a game of tug of war, you find that there are two people pulling on two groups of people pulling one rope. When the force, or say when the two teams are equal in strength, when they are equal in strength, you find that none of the team will move. The team is, even when they are trying to pull each other, if both the team have equal strength, then you find that team is, that none of the team is moving in any direction. Now, it's something like that box. It's something like that box, and you trying to push that box also, right? So, in this scenario, if one team in that game of tug of war, if one team adds some more force, okay, it adds some more force, or it adds some more strength, or maybe they add one or two more people, then this team will start to pull the opposing team, right? The opposing team will, they will be able to pull the opposing team towards them. Now, what happened when we add that to the team is that you are adding more force, you are adding more force, like the box where in the case of the box where you and your friends are trying to push. When you push that box, you are adding more force into that box. Now, you can try an activity with your friend here also. in this activity with let's try with the same box. When your friends come, when your friends have come and you can use your friend. Now you have a box in between you and your friend. You can start pushing the box from opposite sides. As you push the box from opposing sides, and if you are applying equal forces on that box, you see that the net force acting on the body is the difference. Is the difference in the force that you are applying. Okay, so this basically, this means that suppose you are applying your force on that box, and your friend is also applying the force on the opposing direction. The net force applied by you and your friend is cancelling each other out. So that is why the box is still stationary. Right. If one side of the box, if the force on one side increases, then we'll find that the box will start to move in one direction. In all these examples that we have discussed here, we see that in one body the force should be higher. The force applied should be higher, larger in one body than the other. Now this gives us a measure. This gives us a measure of its strength. This strength of force is expressed by the magnitude, by its magnitude. Now we can for force also we can define its. We can say which we can specify in which direction the force is acting, or in what magnitude it has been applied. So from these many examples that we have covered, we have come across today. We can now understand that force is just a push and pull of an object, right? And as we learned in these classes, let's think of the actions that we perform to move an object. Like the actions like picking, lifting, pulling, pushing. Okay, those are the actions which results in the change in motion of an object. It change in the direction of the moving object, or it can stop a moving object. So these are actions which can apply changes to the movement of that object. For all these actions, we summarize that actions into push and pull, and we describe force with as push or pull of an object. Now, and then from the many examples that we have covered, we see that there should be some kind of interaction between different bodies. It may be two bodies or more. Okay, it doesn't mean that the interaction should be only between two bodies. It doesn't mean that. What I mean is that for a force to come into play, there should be an interaction between two or more bodies that will change the motion of an object, or it will stop the moving object, or it may change the shape. Okay, so those kind of changes that an object changes that occur due to actions that we described before, right? So in force, this kind of interaction between bodies is necessary for force to appear. Now, and then when we look back at the activity between you and your friend, where you try to push a box together, from that activity we also infer, we also get the conclusion. We come to the conclusion that the net force acting on a box, the net force, that means you and your friend acting on the box, the forces that you are acting on the box, together the forces, the net force acting on the box is the difference of force applied on it. Okay, between the difference in the force applied by you and your friend, and this force is its magnitude. Now, we have covered, force, the interaction between bodies is needed. The interaction between bodies is needed to for force to come into play. What about the change in directions? Say, suppose you are playing. In the game of football, you have seen that for a rolling ball, you need to. When the ball is rolling in a straight line, and then you kick the ball in another direction. So so there is always some change in direction. If you apply force on an object, that object will move in the opposite direction. Will move according to the direction that you have applied, until another force comes in and change its state or its direction. Now, and to understand more about this change in direction, when force has been applied to a moving object, we will be requiring some activities which we will discuss more about in the coming classes. In the upcoming classes. As for this class that we have conducted here, I want you to go through your textbook, the first 4 pages of your textbook, and then as you go through the textbook, I want you to read out those activities. Try to learn, try to read out those activities and understand. Because then in the upcoming classes, whatever you understand here about this, about what we have discussed today, it will be discussed more in the upcoming classes. As we move to force due to change of direction with change of direction in force. And now to quickly sum up, let's try to remember the few words that we have covered today. Now, I have introduced you, I have used example of a football of a game of football for introducing you to this force, right? Force. Now, we know that, through that we have learned that force is applied for the ball to start rolling. Force is applied for the ball to start change its direction. A force is applied to go faster, or force is applied to stop. So, application of this force, these actions that we have done, those are some actions that we have done, like kicking, lifting, right, throwing. So these actions, all these actions, we summarized it into two terms, right, which is called push and pull again. And we defined force as push and pull of an object. So, and then we also come to a conclusion that when we are working together, when you are having that activity with your friend, that when the net force applied, acting on on the box that you are doing with your friend, is the difference in the force applied by you and your friend, right? So these are certain terms which you have to understand, you have to remember as we progress further into our next classes. Till then, stay home, stay safe.